Yes, the Green Bay Packers need to find some juice in this receiver room for 2025, but the criticisms of this room have gotten out of control.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I have done plenty of episodes over the last few months about the receivers and the bucket getters and the loss of Christian Watson and the desire to get someone like DK Metcalf or Devontae Adams or Jaden Higgins for that matter. And we have to be able to hold two truths in our hands at once. And that is that this was good enough to be a top 5 offense throwing the ball last year. And the loss of Christian Watson is going to be felt. They need a replacement for that. And these are connected things. They don't have that go-to player on third and must pass proven on the roster. Could it be Tucker Kraft? Yes, it could. Could it be Jordan Love just picking defenses apart? We saw that in 2023. And this is why the criticisms of the receivers fall so flat to me. There's two big ones. One is in big games last year, they couldn't play. They could not create the way that you need them to in a championship caliber team. Except in 2023, this same group of receivers, in fact, theoretically an inferior group because it's Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson with one less year of experience, and it's rookie Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Tucker Kraft. It's first-year starter Jordan Love. And yet, they came through in big game after big game down the stretch for the Packers in 2023. It would be uncharitable to the point of being disingenuous to suggest that they are simply incapable in big games of coming through. And the related piece of this is the man coverage bit. In man coverage, they can't do it. Except in those games in 2023, the big games, the games that when they beat the best teams, the Detroit Lions in Detroit on Thanksgiving, man coverage team. The Kansas City Chiefs at Lambeau Field, the eventual champions. The eventual back-to-back champions. Man coverage team. Now, the Minnesota Vikings defense, not a man coverage team, but they still beat the crap out of that defense. The Bears defense was playing excellent. They got whatever they wanted in that game. Some inconsistency in the red zone. Bo Melton drops a touchdown pass. These things are going to happen. And then in the playoffs against the Dallas Cowboys, a top 10 defense and a man coverage team. A team that was sticking to receivers, that was creating turnovers. They lit them up. What happened in 2024 is not the whole story. We have to take everything into account here. And so our pal Zach Cruz over at Packers Wire pointed out last year against man coverage, Jaden Reed, 96th out of 105 qualifying receivers in yards per route run against man coverage. Dontavian Wicks was 87th. Romeo Doubs was 60th. So 2 guys below average, Another guy just a little above average. Christian Watson was 5th, really good against man coverage. Well, in 2023, Jayden Reed was 39th out of 91 qualifying receivers, comfortably above average. Well, above average. Christian Watson was 40th. Dontavian Wicks was 43rd. Kind of average yards per route run against man coverage. Well, that doesn't suddenly seem like the huge problem it was made out to be, does it? Now, not having Christian Watson has to be accounted for. And the Packers are going to need to find not only that speed element, but Watson was their man cover cheat code. Against the Lions in Detroit, that was who they went to, 2023, 2024. Against the Kansas City Chiefs, he scored 2 touchdowns in that game. Now, down to down, play to play was not the go-to guy, but in the red zone, the Packers have had some issues scoring in the red zone. And part of that is because they don't have the Devontae Adams, hey, we can just throw this back shoulder, or Aaron Rodgers, I know that I can throw the ball out front, I can throw it to your back shoulder. They just have that ESP to put that together. The Packers don't have that. Now in year 3, with Jordan Love and these guys, could some of them develop that? Could Dontavian Wicks become that separator, X factor, third down guy, the best separator in the league by some metrics, one of the best by Pro Football Focus metrics and by ESPN score metrics, a top 5 separator in the NFL? If he just caught the ball, his yard per route run against man coverage would have been a lot better. The same for Jayden Reed. Now, Jayden Reed was 2nd in yards per route run against zone coverage last year. So that doesn't say to me, oh, he's a bad receiver in general, or he's an insufficient receiver against man coverage. No, I think what happened last year was their plan to attack man coverage at the end of the year. We over-index what happened in that Vikings game and what happened in that Lions game. Don't forget, they scored over 30 in that Lions game. And it took until the end of the second quarter for them to start getting to some man cover concepts and protecting it up. They were getting beat by Lions blitzes, by just one-on-one battles against backup defensive linemen, just some stuff that shouldn't happen, that has nothing to do with the receivers. And then in that Vikings game, a similar thing where they couldn't block it and they did not have answers early on for man coverage. It's not a coincidence that they started to run more man beaters in the second half and they started to work. Jordan Love started to create, get outside the pocket. A healthy Jordan Love is an answer for them against man coverage. Now, did that solve all their problems? I don't know. But don't forget, against the Eagles, they didn't blitz. They didn't play a ton of man coverage. They played a ton of 2 deep zone, a lot of quarters. And that's supposed to be Jayden Reed's specialty. He cooked the Eagles in that first game. But they couldn't block. We are over-indexing the Lions game in Detroit, the Lions game at the beginning of the season when everyone just decided to not catch the ball ever, the Vikings game where not only did Sam Darnold have an out-of-body experience, but the Packers did not come in with a good game plan, did not come in and match intensity on offense or defense. And Jordan Love played the whole season hurt. Do I think they need to find something in this receiver room? Yes, I do. Whether it's internal improvement, and even with internal improvement, they need some speed, they need some juice. But the criticisms have gone to an outrageous level. This even if you think, if the critics are right and Jordan Love is mid and these receivers are mid, how do they have a top 5 offense? Is Matt LaFleur just a genius? Is he just the greatest coach to have ever lived? Because that's basically what you'd have to believe in order to have those things be true. It cannot both be true that those players are mid and Matt LaFleur is mid, because this was a top 5 offense last year. And it wasn't, you can't say Josh Jacobs. They were 3rd in passing DVOA. That accounts for schedule. It's not about, they beat up the Saints and these other teams. No, that accounts for the schedule piece of this. If the Packers offense do nothing except add some speed in the draft to this receiver room, they will be projected as a top 10, probably top 5 offense in 2025. And the same guys that it's being said could not beat man coverage or could not come through in the big games last year did the exact opposite in 2023. So we can't just take the 2024 piece and say this is who they are now and ignore that they were something else before. That's just not how this works. Now, a more straightforward yes, no. Do they need pass rush? Yes. Yes. And we're going to talk about how they can find it, where it would be smartest to attack it. That's next on Locked On Packers. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you just have it all. It's a one-stop shop for managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check all your finances, track spending, and even long-term goal setting. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use Locked On NFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. 50% off. That's Monarch. See, Monarch Money is saving you money already just for being a Locked On listener. That's monarchmoney.com, code Locked On NFL for half off your first year. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. March Madness is here, baby. And FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. Do you have those 12 seeds picked out? Ooh, 12 seed. There's going to be one of those 4 seeds that's going to go down. You got to find it. You got to find it. And if you do, it can mean big time payouts. FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, game props. With tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoop action all tournament long. If you want a pass rusher, you have to draft them early. This is what the history of the draft tells us. And Pro Football Focus, I quote this study a lot. They looked at where you find success at every position historically. And I think it's a very useful guide because it allows you to say, okay, if we want to attack this spot, this is where we can be most confident in our evaluations. It's another piece of the puzzle. Using this historical data and to say, okay, we have these evaluations, we have our process, but here's this other data point that says, look, we can be most confident in our evals on certain positions and less confident in others. Pass rushers is one of those where teams historically have been pretty good at ordering pass rushers, which is another way of saying, if you think you can wait second, third, fourth, fifth round, chances are you cannot. The chances of you getting a 65th percentile player, just a starter caliber player in the second round, is less than 50 in terms of edge pass rush. But it's better than 50-50 in the top 20 to 25, right where the Packers are going to pick. It's somewhat similar, though less pronounced, with defensive tackles. Your chance in the second round of getting just a starter, 51%. But it's in the 60s in the first round. You can feel confident in your evals of these pass rushers in the first round, and you can be confident that the rest of the league will take the other good players at that position also in the first or second round. And this is borne out by the play on the field. You look at the top 10 defensive tackles in pass rush productivity. So that is Pro Football's PFF's number that they create based on pressures, hits, and hurries. How often are you affecting the quarterback per snap? So among guys that play about 50% of snaps or more, of the top 10, 7 were top 50 picks. And 9 of the 10 went in the top 100. 90% of the best pass rushers in the league last year came in the first 3 rounds. You can believe in your evals. Same thing on the edge. 6 of the top 10 edge players in pass rush productivity were drafted in the first round. In the first round, 60% and 90% went in the first 3 rounds. You have to get them early. You have to. So then it comes down to, okay, well, what do your evals look like? What is the scarcity at the position in the draft? And what are you looking for? So if you're the Packers, what is it exactly that you're looking for? Brian Gutekunst has said he thinks Devontae Wyatt was their best interior pass rusher last year. That's true. Carl Brooks has been one of their best interior pass rushers since he showed up. Those guys feel like secondary pieces when you need the primary. You need the Kenny Clark. But with the cap situation in 2026, I'm not convinced Kenny Clark is going to be on this team next year. So that says to me, a big body that can rush the passer would be really, really nice. And I'm not talking about your traditional 3 technique. I'm talking about someone who can, on early down, stop the run, and then also on third down, tune it up and go get after the quarterback. That's Kenneth Grant. That's Derek Harmon. There aren't that many guys that qualify for that. Most of the pass rushers are smaller. They're the Omar Norman Lotz at Tennessee, Darius Alexander at Toledo. They're not Derek Harmon, 6'4", 313, and run sub 540s. There are very few players who fit that bill. And when you look at the draft, to me, so the Packers, they want a full athletic profile or something close to it. Brian Gutekunst in the first round has always drafted someone that has a full or something close to full athletic profile. A bunch of these guys still have not worked out. Now, it's mid-March here. The draft is not for another 6-8 weeks. We're going to get more of these. There's even going to be some, like, the week before the draft, there'll be private workouts and stuff because guys are trying to get healthy and trying to get last-minute medicals in and all that stuff. There's one guy. The Packers like pass rushers with agility. One player at the combine. One edge rusher had a sub-7 3-cone. One of them. And it happens to be a first-round player, Donovan Ezeraku, 16.5 sacks at Boston College last year. He is very much in play at 23. If I had to give you my short list right now of who I think the Packers will pick at 23, it is Ezeraku, Derek Harmon, and Kenneth Grant. That's my short list. It's only 3 people. If Michael Williams from Georgia were to fall, I think it's possible. He did not test quite as well at his pro day as people thought. But you turn on the tape, he's big, strong, fast. He's got that Packers type. So I do wonder about that part of it. And I don't even know. The other part of this is corner. They bring in Nate Hobbs. You can find corner. Now you look at that historical PFF study. And what you find is at corner, that's another one where you got to do it early. But the curve flattens with pick 100. So it's first round. You've got a better than 50-50 chance of getting a quality starter. Once you get to the second round, 40%. Third round, 27%. You got to do it early if that's what you want to do. So the Packers are going to have to identify what they want. I think there are better corners on day 2 to find. What do you want to do at receiver? If you're just going to draft a speed guy, can you wait until the fourth round? These are all things that factor together. They are in a position, to me, and I said this before the Nate Hobbs signing, I wrote about it in the Leap, that I didn't think even a higher end corner signing, someone like a DJ Reed or a Carlton Davis, materially impacts their draft plans. If someone like Jahdae Barron is there at 23, I could see them doing that. There is quality pass rush on day 2. Like, I love Braden Swinson from LSU. A little older prospect, but man, he's fun to watch. There are some pass rushers, Nick Scorton, that I think are really fun on day 2. I think your tackle is where I would have my focus. And, as an observer of the Packers, that is where I would have my eye. That is where I would have my expectations right now. That world theory, that God only made so many guys that move like that, the big, strong, fast guys. Derek Harmon qualifies, Kenneth Grant qualifies. And I think, although it's not, the same sort of primo fit, I think Donovan Ezeraku qualifies. You got the extra information with Jeff Hafley, Vince Ogobaze. Like, that would make sense to me. Let's put all this together. The receiver stuff that we started with. And let's do a mock draft. This is going to be a little bit different. We're actually going to do 4 rounds for a mock draft Monday, because I want to draft at least 4 players. Let's do it next on Locked On Packers. Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Draft with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. Now that the season is over, get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every day. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. We also have CJ West, the Indiana defensive tackle, potentially future Packer, coming on the show this week. So a lot of fun to be had here. Let's get to the draft. So at 23, we're going to do this live because I want to have these discussions that are going to be like what the Packers are having in real time. So on the board, Malachi Starks, safety. Don't think that's going to be a thing. James Pierce Jr. is here until he has a draft profile, until he has a testing profile. He's not a Packer. So Kelvin Banks, the tackle from Texas. I don't think they can go tackle again. So that leaves Derek Harmon, Walter Nolan as defensive tackles, Darius Alexander here as well. Gray Zabel is here. Nick Scorton is here. Josh Connerly is here. Trey Amos is here. Maxwell Hairston is here. Siobhan Revel is here. So there are some corners here. But this, I was hoping Ezeraku would be here. He went at 18 to the Seahawks. So I like this. My prediction right now is that Derek Harmon is going to be their pick. So here we go. Derek Harmon. Now, what are you trying to find here? Can you get a pass rusher? Can you find a corner? Is there a receiver that you love here? I don't think there's going to be a receiver here. And as I predicted, there isn't. Now, Benjamin Morrison is here. And if Benjamin Morrison is here at 54, my guess is it's because the medicals are a mess and that the Packers just wouldn't draft him then. Because off the tape, he should be like a first-round pick. I have not heard anything. I've not seen any reporting on this. But if this were me in this scenario, I'm running the card in. The problem is, if he's available here, I would be nervous about it. Because again, I think the tape is good enough that if he's here, it's because the medicals are a nightmare. So Shamar Turner and Alfred Collins are here, defensive tackles, but defensive tackle kind of off the board here. Braden Swinson is here, the pass rusher from LSU. Speed to power, plays with an attitude, a little bit older player. Oregon transfer. There's JTT from Ohio State. The athleticism, I don't see it. Same with Jack Sawyer. Now Darian Porter, the corner's here. Interesting. Jared Ivey, the pass rusher from Mississippi, is here. Josiah Stewart from Michigan is here. Jordan Birch from Oregon is here. But for me, this has played out exactly the way that I wanted it, because I wanted to get Braden Swinson here. This is currently the way that I am hoping the draft plays out for the Packers, or at least that I think it's the way that they would like it to play out. And then I'm sort of transposing my own biases on these players in here as well. So I'm going to take Braden Swinson and just revamp this front four in a major, major way. And now I'm hoping that I can get some value. I got Jalen Royals here. I got Tate Rutledge here. I've got Charles Grant here, the tackle. I've got Jared Wilson, the center from Georgia here. Deion Walker, defensive tackle. Isaiah Bond. I feel like I've taken Jalen Royals a lot. But if this, I believe, and it just happened to work out this way. I sent out on social media over the weekend that this is how I think the perfect draft for the Packers right now would look. And it was Derek Harmon. I think I used Femi Oladejo from UCLA, but Braden Swinson works too. And then Jalen Royals at 87. So this is perfect. I'm gonna do the mock that I said I thought was perfect. And then Noah Williams is here. It's my guy. Like, come on. Now maybe you're annoyed. I could still take Oladejo. He's here. Another pass rusher. We're having fun. Now there's some offensive linemen here. Willie Lampkin is here. It would just be a fun chess piece for Matt LaFleur. Torrey Horton is here. You could add another receiver if you wanted to. There's some fun players here. Pat Bryant is here. Kobe Hudson is here. Quincy Riley is here. Kyle McCord, if you want to get crazy, is here. How can I pass up the chance to have what I think would be basically a home run draft where you go Derek Harmon, Braden Swinson, Jalen Royals, Noah Williams? This, to me, right now, would be the ideal draft. I think it checks every box for what you want for the Packers. You're getting a potential Kenny Clark replacement in Derek Harmon. Someone who has legit pass rush upside. Real, like I can be one of the 6 or 8 best big man pass rushers on the interior in the NFL. Braden Swinson, that's another body on the edge, someone who can speed rush, but also can inside counter, can work with his hands. Jalen Royals is that speed. He's got to work on the blocking, the effort when he's not in the play, but he is dynamic vertically. And then Noah Williams is your playmaker corner. He's a little bit older. He didn't run super fast, but I think in this zone coverage scheme for the Packers, let him play press, let him play cover 2. I think this is beautiful. I think this is a beautiful draft. If this were the draft, I would come on the show and I would go build the statue for Brian Gutekunst right now. Now, this is my evaluations playing into this too. But when you look at the historical hit rates of these things, you can wait on interior offensive line. You can wait on linebacker if you think Quay Walker is not going to be a long-term, part of this team. You can wait on getting a TJ Slayton replacement. You can find those days on day 3. TJ Slayton was drafted on day 3. So you want a blocking tight end day 3. You want, maybe another developmental backup quarterback when you trade Malik Willis day 3. This draft, oh baby. This draft would be sexy. I would talk reckless after a draft like this. I would be like, okay, the Packers are the favorites in the NFC. Like I would probably say that. I don't know if I would believe it truly, but like if they did this in the draft, I think I might. Given where the Eagles are right now, all the talent that they've lost, that's out the door. The brain drain in Detroit. Minnesota starting a rookie quarterback. I like what the Rams are doing, but I think that defense still has issues with talent. The offensive line, they did lose some bodies. LaFleur owns McVay. The 49ers are done. They're cooked. It's over. A draft like this, I would get crazy. All right. Speaking of crazy, plenty more to come this week. As always, follow me on all the social medias, Peter_Bukowski on the X and the Instagrams. You can just search my name on Blue Sky if you want to find me there. The podcast is everywhere you find social medias. We're also on everywhere you find podcasts. We're on YouTube, so you can stay locked on Packers.